Assalamu alaikum ji. My name is Dr. Muhammad Zishan Sarwar, and today's topic of presentation is management of diabetic patient. A patient is coming to the general surgical for any procedure, and is diabetic as well. So how to deal with this patient during operation, before operation, and after operation. In order to highlight the importance of my topic, I would like to say that approximately one third of the inpatient have been found to have hyperglycemia in our hospitals. Diabetics have nearly 50% risk of needing the surgical intervention at some point in their lives. So it's a major chunk that we are dealing with. So today's topic is dealing with a major chunk of our general surgical population. So a little bit about the pathophysiology regarding diabetes mellitus. A patient is facing metabolic stress of surgery. Patient is having a critical illness for which he is undergoing an operation, and patient is undergoing anesthesia as well. So all these factors result in increase insulin resistance and decrease insulin secretion, increase counter regulatory hormones, and affecting the gluconeogenesis and glucose utilization. So all these parameters, all these factors result in perioperative hyperglycemia, which can affect the body in different ways as shown in the picture. So what could happen if we do not have a blood glucose control during operation, before operation, and after operation? So the risk of poor diabetic control is an impaired wound healing, increased incidence of myocardial infarction, acute kidney injury. It could be a post-operative infection in the form of respiratory tract infection, urinary tract infection, or surgical site infection. Sorry. And this poor diabetic control can result in perioperative mortality as well. So what should be the goals of perioperative management in diabetic patient who are undergoing any general surgical procedure? So the goals are to maintain a good glycemic control, to have an adequate fluid and electrolyte balance, return to a stable glycemic control as soon as possible after surgery, and to prevent the complications, especially ketosis and hyperosmolar state in the perioperative period. So better to discuss this case in a scenario of a general surgical patient. We will discuss these scenarios at the end as well, how to proceed with these patients. A patient is a 34-year-old female who is a known insulin dependent diabetic mellitus, and she is planned for laparoscopic cholecystectomy, and how to deal with her during the preoperative, intraoperative, and postoperative period. A 45-year-old male which is non-diabetic and well controlled on oral hypoglycemic and is planned for Whipple procedure. So what should be done with him in a preoperative, intraoperative, and postoperative period? A 17-year-old boy who is a known insulin dependent diabetes mellitus and is planned for sebaceous cyst excision, and which is planned under local anesthesia. So how to deal with these patients during the perioperative period. So our today's presentation will be focused on these scenarios. What should be the preoperative evaluation? Any patient who is diabetic and came to the surgical for any general surgical procedure like laparoscopic cholecystectomy, like Whipple procedure, he should have a preoperative evaluation first. Preoperative evaluation should be focused on cardiopulmonary risk assessment. It should determine the type of diabetes mellitus, either it is type 1 or type 2, and it should also evaluate the micro and macrovascular complications of diabetes mellitus. We should also assess the baseline glycemic control of the patient as well. We should have a detailed history of diabetes therapy, either he is taking oral hypoglycemics or insulin, what is the type of insulin, what are the different dosages, what is the timings of insulin or oral hypoglycemics, and we should have some baseline investigations as well, along with the urine complete examination, HbA1c, fasting and postprandial glucose levels, ECG, echo, and chest x-ray. So these preoperative evaluation is required in all patients who came to general surgical floor for a general surgical procedure, and they are diabetic as well. Before proceeding further, we should be very clear to what should be the cutoff value at which an elective surgery should be postponed. As a rule, elective surgery should not be performed on a patient with DKA or any other complication of raised blood glucose levels. The Yale New Haven Hospital recommends postponing the surgery if BSL level is more than 400 mg per deciliter, and the working party supports the consensus advice published in 2011 NHS diabetes guideline that the HbA1c should be 8.5% or less than that for elective cases. So after admitting the patient for a procedure and doing some preoperative workup, then how the patient should move through the procedure along with his diabetes. So if you are doing a procedure which needs a short starvation period, so in those patients, and patient is on insulin, so in those patients the prandial insulin should be stopped on the day of surgery, and basal insulin should be dealt as shown in this table. If the basal insulin which is being given is in once daily dose, then on the day before admission the dose should be given 20% reduced dose. On the day of surgery, reduced dose by 20% is again given, and blood glucose should be checked on admission. And post-operatively, this patient should be on variable rate insulin infusion, and it should be continued till the patient resumes normal diet, and along with that we should continue with 80% of the usual dose of once daily insulin which is being taken by the patient as a basal insulin. If the patient is taking an insulin, basal insulin, which is twice daily dose, then the day before admission no dose change is required. On the day of surgery, half the usual morning dose is required. Check the blood glucose on admission and leave the morning evening meal dose unchanged. That should be given as such. Post-operatively, patient should remain on variable rate insulin infusion, intravenous insulin infusion, and the basal insulin should be started until should remain stopped until eating or drinking. Patient eating, normal eating or drinking resumes. Similarly, a patient who is undergoing surgery and the surgery duration is of short starvation period, surgery is such that the short starvation period is required, and patient is on oral hypoglycemics. So these are the different oral hypoglycemics, and these are the parameters. For example, a patient is on sulfonylurea. The day before admission, patient should take the normal dose of sulfonylurea. On the day of surgery, he should omit the dose of sulfonylurea. After surgery, patient should remain on variable rate intravenous insulin infusion, and it should be stopped until eating and drinking normally. When the patient starts normal diet and normal drinking, this variable rate insulin infusion should be stopped and sulfonylurea should be resumed. Similarly, these tables are showing you different oral hypoglycemics such as metformin. If on the day before admission, patient should take normal dose of metformin. On the day of surgery, patient should take normal dose of metformin, and after surgery, patient should remain on variable rate intravenous insulin infusion and should continue until the patient starts eating and drinking normally, and at that time we should stop the variable rate intravenous insulin infusion and restart the metformin. So what should be, repeatedly I am using the word variable rate intravenous insulin infusion. So what it is and when should be used and how it should be used. So if the variable rate intravenous insulin infusion is used during the intraoperative period. If the decay is not present, the high blood glucose level can be corrected by using this variable rate intravenous insulin infusion. Another option is subcutaneous insulin that can be given during this period. But the subcutaneous rapid acting insulin can be given up to 600 international units at one time, assuming that one unit will drop the capillary blood glucose level by 50 milligram per deciliter. And this capillary blood glucose level should be checked hourly, and the second dose considered only after 2 hours. But if the two subcutaneous insulin dosages do not work, then this variable rate intravenous insulin infusion should be started. So variable rate intravenous insulin infusion is used in the intraoperative management of patients who are undergoing a general surgical procedure and they are diabetic. This infusion on the left hand side, what you can see on your screen, this is a standard rate. You can see on one side that there are blood glucose levels are written, and on the other hand column there are two columns are more given, which showed that what should be the rate of insulin at which blood glucose level. So we should be checking blood glucose levels each hour, and insulin infusion should be changed according to that blood glucose levels. And these insulin infusion will depend on either we are giving some basal insulin or we are not giving some basal insulin. In a patients who are on short duration of surgery, so we will be these are the patients who will be having basal insulin continued. But if our patients who are to be kept NPO for 4 or 5 days and we need to have more long NPO, so they in these cases basal insulin should also be stopped, and patient needs to have a control of blood sugar according to this variable rate intravenous insulin infusion. So along with the good glycemic control in the intraoperative period, we should focus on having a good normal electrolyte concentration during the intraoperative period. We should have an optimized cardiovascular liver function. We should have a multimodal analgesia during the intraoperative period. Antiemetic prophylaxis is required in these patients, and they behave good in along with the regional anesthesia as compared to general anesthesia. So these are the parameters that should be looked after along with the good glycemic control in patients who are undergoing general surgical procedures and who are diabetic as well. So post-operatively, how to resume the oral hypoglycemics. These are the patients who have undergone surgery, they have passed through the surgery, they are on variable rate intravenous insulin infusion for the control of blood sugar, and now they have to resume the oral hypoglycemics. How to restart the oral hypoglycemics? Oral hypoglycemic agent should be recommended at a pre-operative dosages once the patient is ready to eat and drink. First point, withholding or reduction in sulfonylurea may be required if the food intake is likely to be reduced, and metformin should only be restarted if the estimated GFR exceeds 50 ml per minute. One should be very cautious about metformin. And if the patient was on insulin previously, so conversion to subcutaneous insulin should commence once the patient is able to eat and drink without nausea and vomiting. And if the patient has type 1 diabetes and a variable rate intravenous insulin infusion has been used, it must be continued for 30 to 60 minutes after the patient has had their subcutaneous insulin. So the first dose of subcutaneous insulin is given, and after 30 to 60 minutes of first dose of subcutaneous insulin, this variable rate intravenous insulin infusion should be stopped. So this is how this insulin infusion is switched back to subcutaneous dose of insulin which the patient was already taking before operation. So coming back to the scenario, a 34-year-old female non-insulin dependent diabetes mellitus planned for laparoscopic cholecystectomy is taking regular insulin before meal as a prandial insulin and once a daily long-acting insulin as a basal insulin. So what should be done? On the day before surgery, we should reduce 20% of basal insulin. On the day of surgery, we should reduce 20% of basal insulin, stop the prandial insulin, start variable rate insulin in intravenous insulin infusion as the NPO starts, and continue till the patient resumes normal diet without nausea and vomiting. We should then stop this variable rate intravenous insulin infusion 30 to 60 minutes after patient has had their subcutaneous insulin started. Subcutaneous insulin started, then 30 to 60 minutes after this subcutaneous insulin, this variable rate intravenous infusion should be stopped. The second scenario, 45-year-old male non-diabetic and well controlled on oral hypoglycemic, which was metformin and is planned for Whipple procedure. So what should be done? On the day of surgery, he should take the usual dose. There is nothing is required before surgery. He should be taking normal dose before surgery, day before surgery. He should be taking usual dose on the day of surgery. He should start variable rate intravenous insulin infusion as NPO starts and continue till the patient resumes normal diet without nausea and vomiting. Metformin should be recommenced at preoperative dosages once the patient is ready to eat and drink. And one thing important for metformin, that metformin should only be started if the estimated GFR rate exceeds 50 ml per minute. So this is how we will follow the patient who are in ward for general surgical procedure and they are diabetic. Either they are on oral hypoglycemic or they are on insulin. This is the way how they should be treated in the perioperative period. So we conclude our presentation that we need to have a preoperative evaluation of the patients who are diabetic and coming to us for some general surgical procedure. We need to focus on intraoperative management of oral hypoglycemic agents and insulin, and we should know what is the postoperative recommencement protocols of oral hypoglycemic agent and insulin. Thank you very much.